Hello, it's Dr. Teresa Ulrich again. Last time we left off just sort of assessing some of the equipment that I have, and I mentioned that some of you who've been keeping fish for a while may also have equipment that you can recycle to help determine what kind of seahorse environment, dwarf seahorse environment would be good for you to build based on the equipment you have, and kind of saving money in the end because it does add up. So we're going to take a look at the 10-gallon aquarium that I showed you previously. I'm going to turn the camera a little bit and I'll just show you some of the contents that are in there. So here isn't something I don't think I'm really going to use for the seahorse tank. It's a poly pad. This poly filter pad is a very popular brand name in salt water for pulling out a lot of elements that are in the water and keeping the water crystallized and pristine. I don't know if I'll use this for the seahorse tank. This is a big package, and even though I can cut it down, this is something I typically use for my 300-gallon aquarium saltwater tank. But let's look what else we have in here. I have some funky ornaments. Notice the base. The base is actually weighted, so I don't have to worry about putting any gravel or substrate in the aquarium to weight those down. I have here a special cleaning brush. This is a siphon hose that has a cleaning brush attached. I use this quite a bit when I was raising seahorse fry from the large giant seahorses, the Seahorse erectus that I used to have, and basically you scrub with the brush as the water filtrates out through the holes, and so all the debris either on the bottom of an aquarium or the sides where algae builds up just goes right out with the scrubbing. So I know I'll be using that quite a bit. Here is something I thought was cute and I ordered it. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it or not in this tank, but it's just a little shipwrecked ship here designed for aquariums, and it does have some neat looking places on it that the seahorses would be able to attach to. I'll consider that. I also have a very old fluorescent lamp. I have some replacement bulbs for that. So again, I'm looking at recycling here. I'm not intending to grow any special macroalgae or saltwater plants. So this lighting will work just fine for what my plans are for the aquarium. I also have a couple of different decorations here. I can put on the back of the aquarium if I want, or against the wall that this is going to appear on if I want to protect the wall. And we'll talk more about that when it's time to start setting up the aquarium, because one thing that you're going to find if you've not kept salt water before is that no matter what kind of nice fitting lid you have, there always tends to be salt creep and spray, and it does end up on your walls and surrounding furniture. So it's something to think about. I also have a classic black one, and I'm thinking of using this for the bottom of the tank so that it's a little bit easier to see the waste that builds up, and give some contrasts to be able to see the seahorses a little bit easier. Now, I wouldn't put this on the inside of the tank. It would go on the very bottom underneath. And when I'm ready to do the setup, I'll show you what I mean with that. I also have here a thermometer, which will be important. You want to keep your dwarf seahorses in a range that's in the low 70s and try to cap it to no higher than 80s just to keep the seahorses comfortable. This particular thermometer has a green area that's supposed to be a good zone for keeping tropical fish in. It's not a bad range that's set here. It looks like it's right into that 70 to 80 degree range, so it does make it very easy to see how high the temperature is getting, which will be very important depending on where you place the tank and what season you're facing, and also what part of the country you're from and how your seasons fluctuate. Here is part of an old small filter. These days it's recommended for a 10 or 15 gallon aquarium to use a filter called AquaClear is the brand name, 20. This is called an AquaClear Mini. I don't think they make this particular size anymore or call it by that name, so it really is old. And one of the things I'll have to do is make sure eventually that this filter is working, and I'll even talk about how to take your filters apart if they seem like they're stuck, they're old, if you have old ones that you want to recycle and reuse. This is just another piece of the filter, and I'll show how all that fits together. Here is a artificial sea fan. It's made sort of like a rubbery plastic, so it's quite pliable. It won't break real easy. And again, it's weighted, so I don't have to worry about substrate. And I'll be talking about the fact that I'm not planning to use substrate for my dwarf seahorses, and I'll get into more detail about that as we get closer to actually acquiring them and getting everything set up. I also have in here another very large artificial sea fan. Again, it's made of a pliable plastic. This one isn't weighted down in the same way, but it's heavy enough where it should stay. I think this piece is actually too big for a 10 gallon, but it might be really nice for a 15 gallon if I need to upgrade eventually. Also in here is another example of a background that I could use either on the back of the tank or on the wall. So I'll have to make up my mind as to which I want to use. I also have put together here some regular tubing attached to some rigid airline tubing. And this is going to be important when it comes to hatching out and separating brine shrimp if you don't have decapsulated brine shrimp, which is going to be the main food source for the seahorses. So you'll be seeing how that gets used. Here is a glass canopy. Again, this is old school, very old-fashioned, but it does fit right on the aquarium. There is a space for the hang-on pump to go, and then a little cover to prevent that back area from being completely open and limiting the amount of spray. But like I said, I'm recycling, so I'm not worried about all the best and latest greatest. I'm just reusing things that I have already. Here are a couple of more different decorations. Again, they're weighted. These are great for the dwarfs and for the babies to hang on to. Here's another one. Now, I do have a lot of different decorations, but I'm definitely not going to put them all in the tank at one time. Here's some more here. You know, maybe just a little bit of variety so it looks appealing, eye-catching to the human and hopefully to the seahorse as well. But I don't want to use all of those because it will be too crowded and it'll make it a lot harder to clean, which is a real issue when it comes to keeping up seahorse health. Here's something I thought I'd show. It used to be in the filter. This is actually an old nylon stocking, and it's filled with carbon. And carbon is a great tool to use to help keep the water quality good in a saltwater aquarium. So I'll show you how I make these instead of buying the prepared sachets, which are several times more the cost than just making your own sachet. This is just the lid to the aquarium. Excuse me, the filter. This is an extra sponge. And again, I can buy sponges that are made specifically for this particular size pump, but or filter I should say, but I ended up buying more of a generic kind because the whole purpose of these is to create some biological filtration as well as to filter out large particles. So we'll talk about filtration options when we start to put together the filter. And here is a small vial of baby brine shrimp eggs, or Artemion nepali. It's pretty old, so I don't know if it's going to hatch. I don't think it's ever been opened, and it has been kept in a cool, dry place, so I may get some hatching out of it. I'm still debating whether or not I want to invest in decapsulated brine shrimp or not. It is very costly, but if you don't use decapsulated brine, there is a few extra steps. There are a few extra steps that you have to go through to prepare the food, in addition to hatching it out for the seahorses. And then I just have a spare rigid airline tubing, and I know this is going to come in handy, and you'll see the different ways I use these things. So now my aquarium or tank is empty. This is a 10-gallon as a reminder. And one of the steps, I found something else that will be useful. I'm going to be sharing about some medications that you're going to want to keep on hand when you have dwarf seahorses, and this is a dosing syringe. So this would be really good to have if you don't have one already. And one of the things I need to do before my next steps is check the health of the aquarium itself. So what I'm going to do is look very carefully in the corners, for example. Make sure the seals look like they're in good shape. They don't seem to be peeling off or rubbing off. These seals look pretty good. And then looking from the outside, I'm also looking at the seals from the outside. You don't see any chipping in the corners, which is really important when you're using old equipment. I mean, that does tend to happen when you move things around or when you store things and other things get put on top of it. So my next phase in preparing for the seahorses would be to give the aquarium a test. So I'm actually going to fill this up with water. And I don't need to have you sit here and watch me fill it all the way up to the top, but I am going to fill it to the top, and then I'm going to let it sit for a couple of days, at least 48 hours. Anything less than that, you don't really get a true reflection of how the seals are holding up. Some people might wait as soon or check after as soon as 24 hours, but for me, I will feel more comfortable waiting until we hit the 48-hour mark. So once this is filled up, I am just going to let it sit for a couple days, and then we'll check back in, and I'll show you the different places you want to look at so that you can make sure that if you are testing an aquarium and making sure that it's still holding water well and the seals are holding up, you'll know what to look for. I hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye.